This is Christopher speaking. Accounting for the increased polarization between Republicans and Democrats since the Trump era and now. So, since Donald Trump became the president, the polarization between the Republicans and the Democrats has grown larger. Some of the reasons for why that is because Trump got impeached 2 times. One of the things Trump got impeached for was pressuring Ukraine to look into Joe Biden and his son Hunter. Joe Biden is the president of the United States and he represents the Democrats. And I believe Trump mostly did that because he hoped the public will like that, and we know Trump wants to get back into office. Another reason for the rising tension between the two parties is the classified documents Trump decided to steal right before he left the White Office. Because of that, the FBI had to get involved, and the Democrats used that as a motive to hate on him even more. When Trump lost to Biden, he also accused the Democrats that they were cheating, and the Republicans supported Trump's claims, which led to even more polarization between the two parties. The Republicans have also accused the Democrats about using social media against Trump and their party. All these differences have made the two parties more and more against each other and helped divide them even more.
An example of the polarization between the two parties is when Ruth Bader, who was a Democrat and a part of the Supreme Court, tried to legalize abortion in the USA. She then got overturned by all the Republicans in the Supreme Court. The polarization also increased because of the attack on the Capitol. The people behind the attack were all Trump supporters.
Now, Alexis speaking, and now I will tell you about our analysis of how the heated discussion between both parties can escalate into a potential civil war. The Capitol attack really described how heated the political scene really is. But what will the future look like? We anticipate that it could escalate further, and that in worst case scenario, a civil war between the people who vote for the Republicans and the people who vote for the Democrats. Firstly, after the FBI surprise search of Trump's mansion and Mar-a-Lago, the FBI managed to get a ton of threats after searching his estate, even though Trump had withheld government classified documents, which is illegal as he isn't president any longer. The backlash has enraged Trump supporters on social media, making the pro-Trump trending on social media. Secondly, the firearm homicides has increased greatly as well. A study from science.org shows that the firearm homicides have increased by nearly 43% from 2010 to 2020. This is a scary thought because if more people have access to firearms and it becomes the norm to carry one, it might lead to a bloody argument between left and right-wing extremists. And even the Americans think that the civil war, as civil war will break out. A study from Analytics asked that people from the US if they will have a civil war or not. The answer was 42% in favor of US citizens thinking that a civil war will come. If we combine the answers of very likely and somewhat likely that a civil war will outbreak.
Now it's Marcus speaking again.
Yeah.
Lastly, the people of the US don't approve the government. The approval of Congress is just about 20%, which shows the disapproval of US citizens. This is also due to the attempt to legalize abortion being denied by the Supreme Court. The Guardian also says that politicians are experiencing death threats regularly. Fred Upton, who is a Republican representative from Michigan, received a message saying, "I hope you die. I hope everybody in your family dies." This is really concerning. It's not unimaginable that these messages come to reality, especially after the Capitol riot. This wouldn't be the first time in this decade that the people are out to kill a political figure.
This is Nils speaking. Reflection on how the midterm election might play out knowing the current political situation. The midterm elections in the USA are held every 4th year, roughly in the middle of the presidency. It's held on the Tuesday after the first Monday in November. There will be elected 535 lawmakers known as members of Congress. This is quite important to know before we dive deeper in. As explained earlier, the situation in the US is very tense, The topic of civil war is even being talked over. The last civil war in the US was back in the late 1800s, which was a catastrophe for the country with many lives lost. Therefore, this midterm election has a lot of attention, not only from the inside the country, but the entire world is watching what is going to happen. The US is the leader of the free world after all, therefore it's important that nothing like a civil war will ever break out. All of this and even more, like the insanely low approval of President Biden and the Vice President Harris in their own party. Biden himself is getting old, so old that he outlived the average living age in the US for men. He even forgot that Jackie wasn't present in a press release since she died a month earlier. Even the fact that after the fact that he publicly said that he mourned her death. Things like this shows that he is catching, the age is catching up to him. All of this builds up to a Republican victory when the midterm finally arrives, since the favor just more the Republican side. Also historically, the House Party, like the party which has a president elected, in historical terms, always had a lower election numbers when the midterm finally arrived.
This is the conclusion, and it's Marcus speaking again. We can conclude from these points that the government is losing its popularity and that the US citizens are increasingly getting more violent. This is a scary thought, as no one knows to what extent this will escalate, but we sadly cannot disclose a civil war. A civil war might end up happening if this civil argument will increasingly become more heated.